Welcome to Joy for Midlife Women. I'm Cheryl Jones, your host, and thank you for tuning in. Today, my program is about reading and all the wonderful health benefits that you receive from this simple leisure activity. I also hope to share with you some of the titles that I enjoy, and I'd love to hear what you've been reading as well. So we know that reading goes back centuries. People have been reading for centuries, but not always quietly as a solo activity. Reading started as a group activity where the reader would read the text to several people or around a group, such as the monks would do that in Europe. And perhaps there was individuals that didn't know how to read, and that was a great activity for everyone to join in. So we know that reading has truly evolved. Today, you don't even have to have a book in hand in order to read the text, right? Online, Kindles. And so the study of the benefits of reading has evolved as well. And I'd like to share some of those tidbits and facts around the health benefits of reading. Studies show that specific cognitive processes like concentration and critical thinking, empathy, and emotional intelligence are strengthened by reading books. Knowing this is really great for us as we move through our ages because we can gain health benefits just from a leisure activity as reading. So I came across some very interesting facts around reading and from the studies. A study conducted by the University of Sussex showed that readers experienced 68% less stress than those that did not read. Another interesting tidbit is that Bill Gates reads about 50 books a year. How does that compare with you? Now, would you believe this one? 16% of romance readers are men. And here's a statistic that I am sure you'd like to know about. And you may already know that during the pandemic in 2020, digital edition sales increased by 20%. And during the pandemic, the favored books that were selected were bread cookbooks, and that increased by 145%. Another good fact that we need to remember is that by reading 30 minutes a day, studies have shown that we may prolong our lifespan by just 2 years in 30 minutes of reading. Isn't that great? So I have pulled some books off my shelf to share with you the variety of books that I like to read. I find myself reading several books at a time, but I think because they serve different purposes. For example, I was in a women's group some years ago, and we all purchased a book to read together and to study spirituality, and it was a book called Sapphires, Women Discovering and Celebrating Their Beauty. Although this book talks about on the cover, women of African descent, it really just goes into the spiritual aspect of being a jewel. And it's written by Terry McFadden. I would highly recommend this book. I find myself going back to different portions of it and reading if you're in a mindset that you want to read something of spirituality. Sometimes when you browse the library, there's a section of free books, and I picked up this wonderful old book. It's called More Than a Pink Cadillac, and it's about the start of Mary Kay and the number of products that this woman created before she started Mary Kay. Another spiritual book I like to read from T.D. Jakes. And if you create a birthday list or Christmas list, I was so lucky to receive 2 wonderful books over the Christmas holiday. One is from Whoopi Goldberg. It's Two Old Broads. This is awesome. She wrote this book along with her MD friend, and it's called Stuff You Need to Know That You Didn't Know You Needed to Know. Also, the #1 bookseller, Michelle Obama, The Light We Carry. I like notable names. Patti LaBelle wrote a book about Patty's Pearls. This is awesome. I have a relative that started writing. And she has a book called The Tucked Away Secret. You can do this too. And I hope that she continues to write. It has poetry and it has some personal reflections. Another author that I like is Terry McMillan. Awesome book for women. It's about a friendship. It's called It's Not All Downhill From Here. You'd like that. And then I'm going to show you one more. I like cookbooks. This book is by Muhammad Ali's daughter, the ex-boxer Layla Ali. She followed in the footsteps of her father, but she was a very dedicated person towards her diet. Of course, she had to be as being an athlete, but it's called Food for Life. Excellent book. So I'd love to hear what you've been reading. I'd like to share another really interesting book. I think you're going to find it interesting too. It's by an author named Brené Brown, and her name is spelled a little funny. It's Brene. And Brené Brown actually was given a Netflix special a few years ago called The Call to Courage. And she wrote a book called Daring Greatly. Now it's a pretty interesting book. It's about being vulnerable, and it made the New York Times bestseller list. So Brené Brown writes that her book is about being vulnerable and how it can transform our lives, our love, our parenting, our leadership. She talks about that society traditionally views vulnerability as a weakness, and she sees it as an ability to be vulnerable as a sign of courage. And this is what she says. We can distance ourselves from experiences that bring purpose and meaning to our lives. She says that when we step back and examine our lives, we will find that nothing is as uncomfortable, dangerous, and hurtful as standing on the outside of our lives, looking in and wondering, what would it have been like if I had the courage to step into the arena? I can relate to this book because just like this program, I am very new at hosting a program, but I love talking with you and sharing information. And I'm very happy that I've made myself vulnerable to be a part of this program. Listen to what Brené Brown says in her clip as she talks about daring greatly.
I think we're going to have some fun, talk about some hard stuff, laugh a little bit, and hopefully learn something from each other. How many of you know that I'm super introverted? It's handy when I'm traveling because I'll be sitting next to someone and they'll say, so what do you do? And if I'm not in the mood to chat, I'll be like, I study shame, what do you do? They're just like, nah. How many of you want more love, intimacy, joy? True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. You don't measure vulnerability by the amount of disclosure. Live tweeting your bikini wax, not vulnerability. I'm not gonna you. Vulnerability is hard, and it's scary, and it feels dangerous. But it's not as hard, scary, or dangerous as getting to the end of our lives and having to ask ourselves, what if I would have shown up?
I have a friend, her name is Dr. Hemmer Murdy, and she was working in corporate America and feeling that her life needed a little help. And she started researching wellness, and she wanted to be stress-free. And she ended up writing a book that would help other professional women over 50 to live a pain-free, stress-free life. So here is Dr. Hemmer Murdy introducing her book to you.
Hello, readers of Joy Magazine. I'm talking about my book, Professional Women's Guide to Handling Stress, available on Amazon. And this book took me over 15 years to write. It was about my experiences in trying to develop a plan that I could use to decrease my own stress levels during a professional career as a senior aerospace engineer, and that whole career path, and also balancing that with my fitness level. and my own hobbies. So I wanted to pass on those anecdotal information pieces that others can use to create a world around them where that stress would be decreased. I hope the information, the exercises in the book, breathing exercises and nutritional advice and exercise advice, will help with all the readers' stress levels. Thank you.
So that's it for today, ladies. I do also want to ask you to read Joy Magazine if you have a chance. This is my publication, and along with other women that contribute towards the magazine on health and wellness and recipes and more. If you're interested, go to www.thejoymagazine.com. And we'll love to hear from you about what you're reading and what other topics you'd like to hear on this program. So I wish you a wonderful day. And until next month, stay joyful.